Hey everyone, Assalamu alaikum to all, and welcome back with another amazing episode of the Future Jobs Podcast Show. I'm your host Fahad Jobswala, and I'm student and interview captain at Rehan School Online Academy. So, turning on today is Gregory Hall, a leading voice in the rapidly growing field of quantum health, a space where cutting edge science meets ancient wisdom. Gregory is not only a thought leader but a practitioner helping people reconnect with the natural rhythms of light, energy, and biology to restore their health at the cellular level. In a world addicted to artificial light, screen time, and synthetic fixes, Greg's work challenges conventional medicine and empowers individuals to take back control of their biology and through sun, sleep, and circadian alignment and nature-based living. If you're looking to understand how health works beyond pills and protocols and how light frequency and biology intertwine, you're in the right place. Let's dive deep in with Gregory Hall. So hi Gregory, how are you?
I'm great, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic today. Thanks for asking. It's Eid holidays. We are enjoying you know
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for having me up onto the show, and I definitely appreciate coming on and sharing the knowledge about quantum health and how it's going to definitely help everybody and live long and prosper.
That's really wonderful. I'm so excited to begin our podcast and the conversation, and especially to hear your story. So, what is your story?
So I was in pain for a long time, like for 30 years. But how it all started was I was at work and I was driving a forklift and I was coming up to, the edge and of, where somebody would walk right by me and then one of my employees came right in front of me and I went to go press the brakes. I didn't hit him and I was in so much pain that I was in tears stopping the forklift and I came within inches of taking out his ankle. So I took myself off of the job and I started to search for help because, I was a pretty young man. I'm only 47 now, but this is, 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago now. Um, so I went to the doctor and, said to the doctor, I was driving the forklift. I almost hit one of my employees. I have so much pain. And he sent me for tests and, kept on coming back inconclusive. And, time went on. My symptoms kept on getting worse. I kept on seeing more doctors. My first doctor that I went to was my family doctor, the actually guy that delivered me. And he told me to my face, he says, Gregory, I don't believe you. I think that you're like lying. You're just doing it for the insurance money, right? And I thought that was, very cold and callous because I had a pretty good job. I had a condo, I had a wife, I had kids, and I was doing pretty good in life. And I thought, who's this guy? Especially after I used to deliver his paper to his house. The guy that delivered me and the guy that I trusted in didn't trust in me. So, anyways, uh, fast forward some time, I ended up getting, knee surgery on both of my knees. I ended up getting biopsies because they still don't know what's going on with me. I've went to the neurology department, and on two occasions they had over five doctors. On the second occasion, they brought a doctor out of retirement to look at me. Why? Because when you put my body on the EMG machine, the EMG machine measures the conductivity of your nerves and your muscles. But the machine is supposed to be flat when you're not moving. But I'm just laying there and the machine is going crazy. They don't know. They don't know what's going on. It's still happening today. So I ended up fast forwarding to going to the gym. I went to the gym. I wanted to feel better. I was at one point over 350 pounds. And then, moving away from the doctors and slowly starting to do things my way, I lost some weight. But I went to the gym and I was like, you know what? I really want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger by next week. So I worked out for like 4 hours and then I couldn't work for 9 days. Excuse me. So I ended up basically asking for help and not to the traditional 30 plus specialists that I've asked for help for the 30 years. I actually met up with my ex-wife's sister that I haven't talked to in a while. She was a registered nurse, and I just asked her, "Is there anybody that she knows that could help?" And her friend knew a holistic practitioner that I went to, and in 2 minutes, using quantum technology software, he showed me everything that was going on in my body that nobody else did in 30 years.
Wonderful. I believe that the people who've gone through from such things, when they try to help others to make sure that they do better than we did, because we always everyone experience failures in our life, but that is important to learn from that those failures and to help others. That's really wonderful the way you explained your story. So could you tell us more about the concept of quantum health? What does that mean?
Well, quantum health is really about understanding that everything around us is frequency. Albert Einstein basically said that. Nikola Tesla basically proved that. So, this cell phone here has a frequency, right? But the battery inside of it has its own frequency. And most batteries is not good for the body. So, me being a quantum practitioner, I know that my environment is going to affect my body because my body has its own biofield. Your biofield surrounds your body, and from 1 inch from your body, and even more, but it's very, very uh, heightened around your body, 1 inch. So when you have your cell phone in your pocket with the battery, it's not good. So I use sacred symbols, patented sacred symbols to harmonize those frequencies. So think about it this way. If I'm thinking about you, you might call me and I say, "Hey, I've been thinking about you." And you'd be like, "How did you know to call?" Right? But you don't ask. You just because you want to have conversation with that person and they finally connect with you, you just, embrace them, right? Now, think about it another way. Now, this same cell phone. If you want to call me, you have to call 1-866-774 boss 2677. Okay? That is the frequency for this phone. Okay? So a frequency is basically an electrical measurement. It's a precise geolocation to reaching me on this phone. Now, if everything has a frequency, if you dial that frequency and you know exactly how to target that target, you can detect and correct those frequencies in the body. So, for example, your brain, when it's giving off a good frequency, we can measure that. When it's giving off a bad frequency, we can measure that. When it's, inflammation, we can measure that. Of course, we always want to make sure that it's in balance, but when it's not in balance and we can't get it back into balance, because I have technology software that can balance it back out. But when it can't do it, it will give us a blueprint on how we can prevent illnesses and diseases from forming or reversing them. How? Because it's going to give us suggestions on how to fix it.
That is the really great concept of the quantum health, and exactly it really increases our knowledge on the things and change our view. So it described by Albert Einstein. Then you're sort of continuing his legacy.
I would say that it's not that we're really continuing his legacy. The problem with Albert Einstein is that if he fully took on the concept of quantum physics, most of his work would be thrown out the door. The reason why we say that is because yes, he acknowledged that the future of medicine will be frequency, but he should have acknowledged that the problem with medicine is that we're not incorporating frequency at the main hospitals, at the main doctors. Why? Because if people actually understood what's going on inside of their body, actually listening to the Holy Spirit that's inside instead of listening to somebody else, right? There'd be less doctors and uh, hospitals collecting all of this money. When I don't know exactly where you are in the world, but where I am in the world in Canada, if you go to a doctor's office or a hospital, there's $100,000 vehicle sitting in the driveway, right? And then if you follow that $100,000 vehicle, Porsche, Mercedes, Maybach, whatever it is. You followed that home, right? It's a nice $10 million home they have made, whatever. I'm not saying that people shouldn't have good things, but when we're keeping people sick and we're not educating them to see exactly what's going on for themselves, you know, I would rather have the information to bring to the hospital and say, "This is my problem, fix me now," instead of waiting 3, 4 hour in the waiting room for a test and then to someone to say they still don't know what's going on.
Exactly. That is all about experiencing, things by yourself. And another thing, we believe in on the things which our elderly people, elderly relatives says, like parents, like grandmother. We have to experience things by ourselves. And when we step out from our house, when we see the things, how thing works, then we get to understand.
Just put it this way, my friend. Health is the foundation of life. Okay? How are you gonna have proper health in your faith? How are you gonna have proper health in your fitness, in your family, in your finance, in your fun? Okay, everything is connected by the same thing. Okay, your health. So number one is that we have to learn that just from our first name, our last name, our email address, our height, our weight, and our birth date, we can see the blood, the DNA, the chromosomes, and all of these things. Why is that important? Because, say for example, you're a entrepreneur and you're an entrepreneur that wants to succeed and make lots of money. You go and you make lots of money, right? I have a story, a guy, he's very rich, he have Lamborghini in the driveway, but then he gets so sick he can't drive the Lamborghini. So what's the point of building up the wealth but you don't have the health to enjoy it? So many people don't even not that wealthy, but so many people have meaningful jobs they go to every day, but they can't even make it past retirement, right? How many people are looking for jobs and either their health is not in a certain place to apply for certain jobs? But I truly believe it doesn't matter if you have cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, Alzheimer's, whatever the case is that there's not a solution that we don't have that can help either stop or reverse these issues.
Exactly, totally agreed with you. So most people see health through a biochemical lens. What's missing from that view?
So, you know, I'm a Christian, right? I'm not gonna push my views onto anybody, but I truly believe that when the first human was formed by on the dust, formed in the dust, nothing happened. The breath of life was bred into them. So that breath of life is the energy. That breath of life is frequency because anything is frequency. So energy has a frequency. So that breath of life that goes in is something that we need to take into consideration every second of the day. So if you're thinking about biology, you sitting in biology class, they're dissecting the frog, we're looking at skin and bone and tissues and organ, but we're not looking at the electrical part. If your heart stops, we have to get an AAD and shock you, bang, right? If your brain stops making any rhythm, we know that there's no activity there. The electricity is not humming in the brain. So if we know these simple things, right, we need to bring electricity into every part of our lives. Let me give you an example. I'm living in a cold climate, and most of the time it is too cold outside to take off your shoes and your socks and to go in the ground and grounding, which is very important because if we're energy being, we need to ground our energy. We are, very special beings, but we need to get grounded in everything we do, in our thoughts, right? And what we eat, right? But we need to think about how do we actually measure these things. We can talk about it. Like, say, for example, I have an apple here, and we know the apple keeps the doctor away, right? But how do we measure that? We measured that with frequency. We measured that using quantum software. If we if anybody doesn't know about quantum, I want you right now to go to your computer, search on Google, search on quantum computer because they're coming so fast that when you actually have a quantum computer that it can probably take out everybody's password before you even turn on the computer. That's why they haven't given it to you yet because they're trying to develop the security. So our bodies are like the quantum computer. They're very marvelously, wonderfully made, fearfully and wonderfully made, right? So we have to understand they're like a well-oiled machine. A well-oiled machine actually is run by a computer. And the computer actually can have some inputs that you can input into them so you can actually read the result. Now, given another analogy, you buy a car, a brand new car. I went to the Volkswagen dealership. You know Volkswagen? My first brand new car, I went there and I was like, I've been driving before I had a license. All I want to do is take the keys, drive 5 minutes away, and show it off. That's all. You know, you get a brand new car. I just want to show it off. But the guy says to me, I cannot let you do that. I says, why not? I signed on the paper. I give you the money. It's my car. I says, no. It's not your car until I show you how it works. So when you're born, who's showing you how it works? The doctor's supposed to show you. But if they don't really know how it works, right? Because basically they're taught how it works off of medications and surgeries, not preventative medicine. So when you buy a car, what they teach you is about preventative medicine. They give you a manual, right? The manual tells you if this light comes on, what do you do? If the flat tire is flat, which tire do you replace it with? If the car doesn't start, where to bring it to? So these are the things that quantum medicine does, quantum software for your body. And it's not only for human, dogs, cats, horses can do the same thing.
Exactly. That is really wonderful the way you describe the whole concept of that. You know, and so in your words, what exactly is quantum health, and why does it matter now more than ever?
So quantum health really, as I said, it is what's in your environment and what's in you. If you're not balancing the energy around your environment and in your body, you're not doing quantum health. And in my point of view, quantum health is everything. Vastu, feng shui have to deal with harmonizing those energies. So if you're like, say, in a room that's cut out, that's sucking the energy out of you. If you're in a home with the roof too slanted, that's sucking the energy out of you. If you're wearing a smartwatch without any remediations, like I have remediations here that I use, it's sucking the energy out of you. So in my words, if you're not putting on your energy eyes, you're missing the full equation.
Exactly. That is really important to maintain a balance. And as every doctor says that I have to have a balance in health, have to have a balance in diet, so as well as it is in quantum health. So how do light and mitochondria and circadian rhythms from the foundation of health?
I'll tell you this much. Light is number one. Why? Because you get vitamin D from light. So one thing that we incorporate, because most of the time when we scan people with our software, we're not getting enough light. So you have to use some infrared light. And we use 1064 Newton meter infrared light to actually penetrate to the skull to actually make sure that we're introducing some vitamin D to the cell. But the cell is not the mitochondria. The mitochondria is actually in the cell. It's like the engine of the cell, right? So think of your car, right? Your car is just a shell, but the engine is inside. It could be an electric car, it could be a gas car, whatever. There's a motor. So in order to make sure that motor is working properly, if it is an electric vehicle, you have to make sure you have a good stable current. If it's a gas vehicle, you got to make sure, or a diesel vehicle, you got to make sure that the fuel is clean. So basically, what you have to do is you have to make sure that whatever fuel that you're putting in can actually reach the motor. You got that shell, that big shell, you have to make sure it actually can reach in there. So for the body, what we do is I use a substance called methylene blue. Okay. Methylene blue is the cornerstone to me in any supplement. If you have a little bit of money, methylene blue and hydrochloric acid are the two supplements that will keep you alive past 100. But what methylene blue does is, is a redox agent, and it picks up electrons and brings it right into the cell. So it puts oxygen right into the cell and keeps it prolonged for longer. And over 100 years ago, they won't tell you this, but they use methylene blue to get rid of COVID. You can go on PubMed and Google Scholar, and you can see that methylene blue is good for methylene globecemia. So if you can't breathe, you can definitely put that in a nebulizer and breathe it in. I would do that before I even go to an ambulance or die. But it's actually going to put the oxygen right into the engine that it needs so it can continue going until you can make the corrections that are needed so it doesn't need that boost. But personally, I like to use that every day.
I highly recommend, and that was really great. That quantum health and or whatever, it is really important to have a balance between things. When we uh, don't follow the balance, when we don't maintain the balance in our life, it harms your health. And that is same here in the quantum health, to put it on that. So thank you so much, quantum health boss Gregory Hall, for giving me your precious and valuable time for this amazing conversation. And thank you so much for showing this concept us to us, because I don't think so, many of us knows about this concept. And but as you mentioned, hundred of years ago, Albert Einstein already uh, explained this thing in a very detailed way. So
So
it was a
yeah,
pleasure
and
meeting you and recording this podcast.
yeah, and if you if anybody has any more questions and they want to see what's going on inside their body, right? I do a first free consultation for anybody. So just go to my website, quantumhealthboss.com, and just fill out the form. And doesn't matter where you are in the world, we'll schedule a consultation. All the reports go into your email, and you'll see your blood, your DNA, and you'll see what you've been missing that the doctors are not telling you.
I highly recommend. Go, go, go. Thank you so much, Gregory, for turning on again. Thank you so much, guys, for watching and listening to this podcast. Inshallah, meet you soon with another amazing podcast, with another amazing guest. Till then, stay peace,